So, this hasn't happened in a minute, but I just recorded like 35 minutes of raw footage for this video, and I go look at my camera and it wasn't recording. So we're about to run through every news story that I went through just a few minutes ago all over again. And on top of that, the previous news video that I uploaded, the blessing and curse never ceases to surprise me, because within a minute of me posting that video, this was shown and revealed by Collider. Why? So I guess, guys, we've got a bit to talk about today. News roundup, as always. Interesting things with Superman, and oh my god, to add another kind of L to this, no Superman trailer. Yes, we're getting into that. We're going to get into that Collider preview, and also an article from Deadline going over various things. It's going to be an interesting one. Okay, so the Superman trailer, ladies and gentlemen. We all expected, I was even saying, I was wrong. I will hold my hands up, as I always say, if I'm wrong. We can't blame ourselves, because we got a teaser trailer for Superman in December. There was no trailer at CinemaCon, of which, in retrospect, as I went over post-CinemaCon, it kind of made sense. People were pointing out, as I showed him that video at the time, that, for the first trailer, teaser, if you will, we had like a teaser for the teaser. We had a teaser for the teaser of the teaser, and a countdown for the teaser trailer. Maybe, surely they would do that for the official trailer. So it's like, okay, when's the next opportunity? That would be, what better than Superman Day, April 18th, in just really a few days' time from when you're seeing this video. But now, as we have here from James Gunn, a fan asked, and I have to actually say this, there's no way he didn't put this out there. Like, James Gunn, as we know, is quite online. Granted that he's not as responsive as he used to be on Twitter or Threads, but he's got a sense, I would say, of the fandom and, maybe what we're saying, what we know. So he definitely put this out there to temper expectations, because I think it would have been worse to get to April 18th and everyone, instead of celebrating the character of Superman, there would be a vocal audience being like, where's the Superman trailer? So there's no way he didn't do it for like that reason, if you know what I mean. So anyway, Superman second trailer when? James Gunn says, we just released 5 minutes of footage in theaters, so, it will be a beat. And I think I can confidently say that Gunn wouldn't say that it will be a beat if it was still going to be this Friday, only just a couple of days ago. Yes, guys, I have to say I'm a bit, fully transparent here. The fan in me is underwhelmed, even quite disappointed. I don't think this is all doom and gloom like some people are, oh my god, the marketing of this movie, oh my god, all of that stuff. Or the fact that we're not getting a trailer being like, oh my god, this is going to be super flop. I get the frustration, and we're gonna get into that a little bit more, but I just thought Superman Day would be a perfect day for that. It's like a no-brainer in a way, and I'm sure many of you watching agree. Now, having said that, I do fully expect Superman Day to give us Superman, James Gunn's Superman movie things, such as, maybe interview with cast members, maybe even outlet coverage, like that Collider article we're going to go over in a few minutes, but with interviews attached, stuff like that, building up to the official trailer. There could even be, I think it'd be pretty sick if they released another poster. Not like a floating heads kind of poster, because I think people have moved past that kind of thing, and I love the previous poster of David Corenswet looking up and flying and all of that good stuff, but maybe one with all the characters, all of that would be really cool. Like, why not? Like, you could give it, if you're not giving us the trailer, you could give us a poster. So absolutely, guys, there's going to be things, I think. I don't know to the extent of what, but don't forget that this is not just, and I'm not trying to sound stupid here, like, obviously, they would want to capitalize on James Gunn's Superman on Superman Day, but Superman Day is about the whole entire history of the character as well. So I think they're going to mix and mash it. Like, there's also that interview thing and talk with Jim Lee that James Gunn did, and they posted a little snippet of that, of which was clearly a part of a much larger sit-down talk, so maybe they're going to release a little specially kind of thing like that. And we also have other people talking about the marketing in general, like DCU Updates here saying maybe it's similar to Barbie. And I trust me, I get Barbie had a whole different thing going for it. Very popular character IP in of itself, but also, had the Barbenheimer thing. But to be fair, as DCU Update says, Barbie didn't drop their first, official trailer, if you will, until May 25th, with a premiere date of July 21st. Now, as we know, like Superman's in July as well. He says that they banked on recency bias and like a high saturation of press. Some people are pointing out, but Barbie's teaser too dropped in April. But it's like, well, technically, kind of maybe so did Superman's, because think about it. First teaser in December. Teaser 2, like Barbie in April, was the 5-minute sneak peek. So yeah, maybe like just within the confines of this comparison, not truly comparing Barbie's marketing to Superman, but like maybe the format of how they want to release the trailers and stuff. Maybe, yeah, we could get the official trailer in May. So not for the remainder of this month. Think about it. Superman Day is the 18th. That's towards the end of this week. We might not get the trailer for the last couple of weeks of April, and so sometime in May. I hope personally that they wouldn't be waiting like Barbie towards the 20-something of May, hopefully the first couple of weeks. But yeah, that just sounds like it wouldn't be crazy to me. And on the overall commentary of what I'm vibing online, I do think, despite me being a bit disappointed and underwhelmed, because I am a fan, I want to see more. I like the look of what we've seen so far, so clearly I want to see more. It was kind of a no-brainer to see it on Superman Day. I've seen some people even say, you know what, after the Superman sneak peek, I don't want to see more. I want to go in with this feeling. And I completely respect that as well. But then there's also the very vocal audience, for both reasons, being a fan but really wanting to see it, the official trailer right now, or on the other side being like, okay, I don't like this movie and I want to see how terrible this movie is even more, and another chance to say this is super flop of marketing and whatnot. I have to say I do agree with those in the middle kind of saying, think about the general audience. They're the kind of people who don't go onto YouTube, onto Reddit, onto Twitter, looking for any kind of news scoop, insight, tidbit, news reporting on a news roundup like this. They're just like, hey, I'm going to go see some kind of movie at the cinema, and in May, at some point, I'll be like, oh, that's the official trailer for Superman. They wouldn't really have been thinking about oh my God, when is it coming out? God damn it, stuff like that. They'll be like, oh, we're in May now. This is coming out in barely like a couple of months' time. And the hype of releasing that maybe a little bit closer to the release date could be, exciting for them. So they might want to release it maybe into May and capitalize on the hype from there on out, rather than now in April. Now, I'm not trying to sound copy there. I'm just trying to logic this into some kind of sense with the marketing. And so when you kind of zoom out of that box, you kind of have to think about what camp you're in. And I would say the majority of people who go to see a movie are kind of more casual movie goers. There's obviously a few different profiles of people who see movies: hardcore fans, more casual movie goers, and more of the kind of criticky kind of people, if you know what I mean. And you may debate me in the comments about this, but I do feel like us, like you watching this video right now, our type of people are the people who may think this is ridiculous not getting a trailer on Superman Day, but there are far more, many thousands to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who are just going to be happy when it arrives. Do you know what I mean? They're not like, wait, May? This is super flop. How could they? They're not even remotely in the same stratosphere of thinking about that kind of thing. So I don't know. I want to leave you thinking about that question. Sure, you may think that a different approach or strategy would be better, releasing on Superman Day and stuff, but what do you think about the overall discussion here? How do you feel that we won't be getting a trailer for, it might be a beat, as Gunn said, so probably sometime in May, if we're being honest here. Let me know what your expectations are for Superman Day. What would you like to see realistically? Maybe it would be a poster, maybe some cast interviews. Who knows what they could have planned. Don't get your expectations up too crazy high, but there should be stuff. And until then, obviously, make sure you subscribe to the channel for any kind of update on whatever the heck is going on, because obviously I will be covering anything Friday, whatever could be coming out. Might be a video from me on Saturday, depending what time they release stuff from me in my time zone. And obviously, when it comes to the official trailer, we will be on top of that as well. Now, moving on to this, which I missed the other day. It feels like there's some kind of, the amount of times, those of you who know, the amount of times this happens is just weird at this point. But either way, it is great to see this. As a person who likes what they've seen with Superman, this really gives me nostalgia to, well, loads of movies do this, but like the Batman covering other things on the channel where you start getting outlet previews like this. Hey, exclusive Collider preview stamped in the corner there of James Gunn, directing a scene with Superman, David Corenswet in costume, and Nicholas Hoult in costume as Lex Luthor. And it's just great. I really appreciate seeing it. It really kind of whets the appetite of wanting to see more. I mean, clearly, after obviously knowing we're not getting a trailer this week, but in all jokes aside here, it does. I love seeing stuff like this, and we're going to see more and more and more and more and more and more things like this. This is the kind of thing that you can easily expect to see step up with more outlets, more major trades, kind of interviews and kind of stories on a movie, and where they have like a block of 5 or 6 new photos, that kind of thing, as we get closer and closer to the release. Now, obviously, not like a ton to say about this, other than technically there's a thing in the background that we could hone in on. Some of you may recognize it from the IMAX version of the teaser trailer, and where we had Eddie Gathegi's Mr. Terrific kind of stand up like this, and in the background you can see that kind of high-tech advanced little chamber thing. Now, this is one of the things I described months and months ago, alongside me saying that I saw behind-the-scenes shots of the Fortress of Solitude. I also saw this thing, this kind of little chamber, this little pill-shaped thing, interior that is, it's got like a circular opening, very, very high-tech, but I don't know what it's used for. And it has to be Luthor related, because he's described as insanely high-tech to the point of sorcery, wizardry kind of levels. So I wonder if that means that this is a scene in Luthor Corp. But then again, I don't get why Eddie Gathegi's Mr. Terrific would be in Luthor Corp in that scene that we got teased in the IMAX version of the teaser trailer. Who knows, though? Again, I don't know what it does. It is very high-tech. I don't know if it's like a transportation thing, a weapon thing. We are going to have to wait and see. But once again, love seeing stuff like this, and we will be getting a lot more things like this. And if you have any speculation as to what that thing could be in the background, definitely let me know. Love reading your guys' theories and speculation. But now we need to move on to this Deadline article where Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdi talk about a few things. Superman, they describe the movie in intriguing way. I mean, I know people would be like, well, they're at Warner Brothers, so of course they're going to gas up the film. But either way, we're going to dig into it. They also talk a little bit about the Penguin and the Batman. So Deadline say, how about Superman? I recall you started that one before James Gunn and Peter Safran became heads of DC. So Michael DeLuca says, yes, we hired James in secret to start his Superman script before they took the job. And I remember James Gunn saying this was like 2018, which kind of goes down the rabbit hole of, well, Black Adam, Henry Cavill kind of thing, yet James Gunn was hired to do Superman back then. I don't want to dive into that again, but I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall as to what the heck was going on back then. But either way, Deadline says the CinemaCon trailer generated a lot of back and forth. Well, it wasn't really a trailer. But then when's the next Batman with Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson? So DeLuca says, I love Superman. I think James Gunn has crushed it. It's got tons of his trademark heart and humor, and the action is jaw-dropping. It's the Superman I grew up with, so I get choked up when I watch it. I think it's so epic and visually arresting and emotional. The performances are great. It's a 5-star movie to me, and I can't wait for the world to see it. Yeah. We're really excited about Superman. James crushed it. Deadline said, a closer cousin to Richard Donner directed originals with Christopher Reeve. And DeLuca said, I would say in spirit, it is closer to that, but it's also a big hunk of epic sci-fi. It has a little bit of what I loved about Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's true blue Superman. The comic book sources that he uses for inspiration, All-Star Superman and the like, are in there too. It is really a love letter to what has made Superman endure for almost 100 years. He managed to get it all in there. So very, very high praise from Michael DeLuca. Again, I get it. It is as if they would say anything remotely negative. That's to be expected that they would praise it. But it's all the stuff that does track just with regards to the heart that James Gunn can put into a film, how he focuses on that, the emotion, the performances, the cast that he's got. I truly believe all of that will excel. Like, again, no matter what camp you're in, this movie will succeed. undoubtedly in certain areas. But yeah, there could be things that I don't agree with the writing, maybe the pacing, maybe the final act kind of lands flat for me, stuff like that. But I am very confident that I'm going to like quite a bit about this movie. At least I hope so, because I know James Gunn's movies, the way he tackles stuff. And sure, he needs to dial things a little bit differently here. This isn't like a big team of misfit people with, you know, Peacemaker level humor, the Suicide Squad level humor. So it's going to be really fascinating to see how he adjusts that to Superman. But if he can, and he still injects the James Gunn level heart, humor, you know, levity of Superman and lightness of a fantastical DCU all-star Superman vibe. And again, if you do not know what I'm talking about, and you're a Superman fan who's like, oh, this looks absolutely goofy, and I get it, there are different tones of Superman comics, but a big majority of them are also very flamboyantly fantastical, like all-star Superman. And so the fact that he's going to inject that, you know, we're going to actually see vibrant comic books on the big screen, yet there's still going to be a focus on this resonance of emotion. I again, you've heard me talk about this before. I think what DeLuca said there is kind of what we've heard before and what I'm personally expecting anyway. Now, as for the Batman stuff here, briefly, Abdi says, we're not in the weeds on the Batman stuff. It's really James and Peter Safran who run DC. You know, we have a bit of other collaboration with Matt Reeves, but Peter and James know he is a writer, directing auteur in his own right, and that it will come when he's written his best Batman script and is ready. And the news that circled out of this is that the Batman Part 2 script is still not written. And it's like, well, we know that, but like the bloody stories get retweeted and quote tweeted all the way around as if people are like, oh my God, but it's like, what? We know that it's not been written. Otherwise, we would have heard that it was written and it got the green light for pre-production. You know, everything that I've been going over recently. No, the Batman Part 2 script isn't done. What Matt Reeves does, long story short here, is it's not like other directors where they submit a draft, like a complete draft, and then keep going back and improving it. He may send portions of the script their way, as Gunn and Safran have said, but the final draft that he does, or like the only thing he submits, is the completed product, if you know what I mean. And then that will be greenlit, and then it'll go for a stage of pre-production for like 5 months, 6 months, stuff like that, roughly. And then that's when principal photography really kicks off. It's just, I've always said that if we don't hear about this by absolute latest July, but it should really be before then I can't see it filming this year. Now, in another article, Deadline asked, any chance of the Penguin coming back? And we have them saying the Penguin is one of those things where, and it's interesting because when you talk with everyone involved, everyone is interested in possibly revisiting those characters and doing more. It was very much designed as a limited series, but I would say never. I think if we could get the creative stars to line up in the right way and the talent is available, because we certainly wouldn't want to do this without Colin and Kristen and that team, I would say it's definitely a possibility, but there's nothing in the works at the moment. And that kind of got circulated around. I know people were of different minds about it, saying, oh, maybe it should be left the way it was, but I can definitely see a story that they can pursue. Now, they say there's nothing in the works at the moment. All I can say that I know, and I know I never try and act like, oh, I'm a scooper and blah, blah, blah. That is not technically true. I know that's not true. There are things behind the scenes that they're working on, but absolutely nothing that they can say officially right now. It'd be too premature to say so without getting into context and details. And this isn't anything really that, you know, because I've seen some people say online as well, but a few months ago, they seemed like, oh, you know, they are exploring things. It's not really too different from what was said a few months ago, but I know that there is still momentum being made on that. And I'm not saying like it's bloody tidal waves, you know, worth of progression. So maybe that's why they're like, oh, you know, there's nothing in the works at the moment with regards to, you know, major strides and us getting into like the next phase of pre-production for Penguin Season 2 and hiring people. No, like that. Yeah, there's nothing in the works as far as that is maybe what they mean. I don't know. And then there's just, you know, the whole thing with the Batman Part 2 anyway. With many things in flux like that right now, with regards to could Part 2 still, you know, be going forward, but like it wouldn't cause a delay in the overall movie, but could it still be filming in, let's say, early 2026? Could that still impact what they were doing progression-wise with the Penguin Season 2? I think what I would say about that overall is that from what I know behind the scenes, there are, like, I would describe it as it's in flux. It could be like an evolving situation with seeing how, like, the chips fall. But I'm still pretty confident in saying that in the next few months, we're going to have some kind of update on the Batman epic crime saga, because they can't really put it off for, like, too much longer. Just because, really, by that point, at some point in the next few months, pre-production should start on part 2, and if it doesn't, then it's like, hey, well, there's going to be some kind of answer, or like, maybe, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're going to be, constantly backseating the Brave and the Bold. Well, again, lots of people like to mention, like I did as well, that comment from Peter Safran saying something like, well, we said there would be a Batman movie in 2027. They might flip things around, and Brave and the Bold could be prioritized over part 2 because of what is going on with Matt Reeves behind the scenes. But that doesn't mean they would cancel part 2. Like, part 2 can still be an Elseworlds thing that we get when we get, and it is successful. And lastly here, teeny tiny little DCU update. We have Jason Momoa posting a video of him cycling, I believe, around London. He said that he's wrapped filming on Supergirl, and it makes me think that the photos we saw the other day with that person on set could have very well have been him. I know people are up in the air about that. I know there's more little obscure looks coming out with Supergirl from Unbox PhD Films over on Twitter. And it turns out now, a few days later, Gunn hasn't released an official look. So maybe, because I didn't really see any negativity surrounding those set photos. And maybe it's because, like, they were quite far away, and what you could make out did look very vibrant and comic book accurate, so it's not like you would get a load of people being like, oh my god, that material is so CW. From a distance, it's like, hey, that looks pretty cool. It is maybe the sense of, well, if people aren't really complaining about it, and it isn't like a full-on, in detail spoiler look, you don't feel the pressure of having to release an official look, do you? And I actually went over this before in a live stream saying a similar thing, in where if people just weren't really going crazy about it, then why should you reveal an official look? Now, if there was like a up-close picture that revealed like super high quality details of the suit, you would kind of want to put out your own proper image of it. But that's not the situation we're in. So I don't know when we will get a Supergirl suit reveal. Some people were saying and speculating Superman Day, but that's Superman Day. I don't get why you'd release a Supergirl picture on that day. Never say never, but I would recommend not getting your expectations up for that. But hey, maybe at some point, because they're gonna have to eventually, you'd think. Bonus little Superman tidbit. Does anyone remember the Batman prequel novel, which was a story, well, a prequel to the Batman when Bruce was younger, gave you lots of bits of insight into how he kind of became the Batman. But the thing is, I view that as loose canon because, as it says on the book, before the Batman, an original movie novel, the all-new exciting story inspired by the film. Well, guess what? Superman's getting one because it's popping up on book websites, Blackwell's, there's Amazon. If you type in Welcome to Metropolis, the prequel junior novel for Superman, we're now getting a little bit of a prequel thing for that as well. Now, it is aimed at kids, but the little synopsis, if you will, is Clark Kent is a fresh face to Metropolis, trying to balance his new job at the Daily Planet. So again, prequel here. In the movie, he's been there for some time already, and, he's become very good at his, journalist job, as James Gunn said, and his Superman job. Here, he's very fresh-faced, trying to balance his new job at the Daily Planet and his secret identity as Superman, a powerful metahuman. Interesting choice of word. I mean, I guess technically, but he's an alien. He's not so much. Either way, while uncovering a dangerous mystery that seems to tie back to the infamous Lex Luthor, discover how the world's first superhero found his place in his new home in this original prequel novel based on the film. I wouldn't say that's canon too, but it's based on it. So I know some people argue saying, no, I think the Batman prequel novel is canon. It's not like, I'm not saying that you couldn't have scenarios in that isn't canon or anything crazily contradicts the movie, but I just feel like I'm dying. If I ever get an interview with Matt Reeves, I'll be like, hey, that Batman prequel novel, have you heard of it? Would you say everything in that is canon? I've got a feeling he would probably say, yeah, maybe something. I don't think he would give an outright firm yes to that, and a similar thing with this. But it'll be fun to go through on the channel either way. Also, this dangerous mystery apparently ties back to the infamous Lex Luthor in the comic book. Now, we know that in the movie, they haven't actually ever exchanged words in person up until the point of whatever goes down in the movie. So I don't know if a similar thing is going to happen. Maybe they could get away with it with Clark Kent maybe interviewing Lex rather than Superman having words with Lex. We're going to have to wait and and see. But I just thought I would let you guys know this because I actually know that the Batman prequel novel was like a really cool thing for a lot of people to like dive into, just for little extra tidbits and like slithers of what I would call potential canon. But again, I wonder if Gunn would be like, yeah, everything you're about to read in this book is canon, even though Gunn probably didn't write it. Do you see what I mean? Extra doubt. But either way, let me know what you think. But that is absolutely everything from me in today's video, guys. Let me know your thoughts on everything and anything that we covered. Consider leaving a like on this video if you did enjoy, especially, as I always say, if you got this far. I deeply appreciate that. Thank you so much. But until next time, and I'm looking forward to see whatever comes out on Superman Day. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.